Yes.
Thank you, Olga, for that nice introduction. I'm sad that I'm finishing because I've really enjoyed my time as a student, and I sort of feel as though I'm now out in the big ocean with my own boat, and I've got to figure out how to sail it. I just wanted to speak quickly about the teachers that I've had. I started, as you mentioned, in August of 2014 with Gary Caton. I don't know the exact date, but I looked at some charts of rough ideas in August when I may have started. I think August 23rd. If you look
That
at
sounds
that,
right.
excuse me,
Yeah, it
that sounds,
sounds like like a date, like a right date. Yeah.
yeah, that date, the transiting Saturn Mars was conjunct and partile square my moon. And that's kind of how I felt, an enthusiastic determination and energy in the.
Okay. We lost you. We lost the sound. We can't hear you.
There we go.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's technical problems on my part. That so I'll just go back, and my delineation of that aspect was an enthusiastic determination and energy in the realm of higher education that pressured my emotions for action. Levita, if you're listening, I'm using all the knowledge that you taught me here. I was hooked after that class and changed my clinic schedule to actually accommodate this diploma program. Much to the dismay of the managers that I worked with. They sort of asked me after a few classes, what exactly are you doing? And I had to explain to them that, well, I'm taking some astrology classes. And as you can imagine, in a Western medical clinic, that was not accepted really. I had to kind of be quiet who I told about that. But since I lived on the West Coast, I had to change a lot of clinic time to accommodate for my initial classes. Later on, the classes were usually at night or in the late afternoon, so that was okay. But I was very careful about who I talked to about it. My first class was Nat 01, and Jenny Gilmore taught me, and it was so. She lived in Maine actually when she was teaching me, and I knew in my heart of hearts that I was going to move to Maine someday. And Jenny said to me, I hope that I wish you moved to Maine so that I can have a doctor like you. And I think that resonated with me because here I am living in Maine as a doctor, and it kind of fueled my desire to kind of make that change. So I give Jenny a lot of credit for that. Nat 02 was Anya Kezurashvili, an incredible archetype class that was just deep and intense and really touched my 12th house space in a very profound way. There was no stopping me after that. Nat 03, I almost quit. That was Kathleen Erickson and all the math that we had to do for calculations. No, I never really thought of quitting, but it was hard. But she made it fun, I have to say. And I was determined to finish that class and get to the next one. Then I had Nat 04, that was Loretta, who was so amazing. I still use the chart that we made in every delineation I do. It was really a very pivotal time for me. And then I had Tom Chaplin doing learning about the part of fortune and the part of everything and harmonics, and he was great. Nat 06 was Anne Christine Gruber, learning just incredibly important nuts and bolts like out of bounds and declination and equatorial ascendant and all sorts of things that you don't necessarily use all the time, but are really, really important kind of nuts and bolts of astrology. And then I had Christine Ferraro in Nat 07. Boy, she was a daunting New Yorker. I was pretty afraid that I wasn't going to pass, actually. That she was quite scary. Anyway, I did. So, and then of course, Julene, diploma 1 and 2. And I can say that I never want to look at KD's chart again. I'm done with his chart.
I relate to that. Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to meet that guy someday.
Easy.
Because I feel like I know him better than my family members practically. Then I had Dorothy in relationship synastry, and that was really interesting. I really didn't have a lot of interest in that, and Dorothy was a really wonderful teacher and sort of expanded the synastry to not just people but groups, and it was really a very interesting way of looking at it that I didn't even know existed. So, and Dorothy is just a very thoughtful, helpful teacher who is so good at looking at everybody's perspective and finding something positive, even if you're really on the wrong track. And then I had Lee. What can I say about Lee? Lee is going to be my mentor, I think. I hope, if she accepts me. She was incredibly intimidating. That was horary, I think, Diploma 4. And I had Dawn and Olga in that class, and oh boy, was I ever intimidated. I didn't even want to speak, Olga.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
But I made it through, so I gave myself a big pat on the back after that class, because that was scary. I talk about Lee as, compared to Julene. Julene and Lee were my, the two teachers that I had the most classes from. Julene kind of gave you a flotation device in the ocean to help you get to the shore, and Lee would throw you a tiny piece of it once in a while, and you had to figure out how to swim. And there are totally different ways of teaching, which, I mean, obviously it's easier to have Julene give you the life raft, but I think both techniques are really wonderful. And I do have to give Lee a little the credit for kind of helping me develop a little bit of confidence. So that I didn't have, and I still am fairly tentative, but I'm getting better. Then let's see, I had Vedic with Julene after that. No, Mundane was next, DPL 05, and that was really also a really eye-opening subject that I really didn't know very much about, and certainly has so much to do with what's going on in the messed up world today. Then I had Vedic with Julene, which I would love to take some more classes and use some of that Ayurvedic knowledge in my medical astrology going forward. That's definitely part of where I want to continue my studies. And of course, DPL 07 was medical, which was what I was waiting for. So that's been really exciting to start working there and in that realm. The last class was ethics with Dorothy, which, to be honest, I was kind of ready to be done, and couldn't imagine how you could talk about ethics for 9 weeks. But it was actually really, really a meaningful bookend to my education, and I would absolutely never think of not having that as a final class, because it sort of sets the stage for professionalism, in my opinion, and gives you a sense of how important it is to have a responsibility to our science and art. So I think what I learned mostly through all of this was sort of to recognize and honor my relatively idiosyncratic behavior, and to love myself, because being a 12th house person, it's very hard to sort of experience the world in a way that's not very sensitive and personal. And it really made me realize that 12th house burden is one way of looking at it, can be looked at in a positive light, and that I have a path towards a place where I can help people in a different way than I'm doing now. And it's as you mentioned, Ina, the sort of personal garbage. I learned a lot about that, and I think I have embraced, rather than calling it garbage, I've embraced my what I can do to help people in a way that's totally different than just going to medical school. And I'm really, really excited to embark on what I consider now my residency. I did my medical school, which was this, and now I'm going to embark on my residency of medical astrology. Interestingly, too, if you look at the bi-wheel of my natal chart and today's graduation, the transiting nodal axis in is partile my Saturn and Mars conjunction across 11.6 to me, which is a harbinger of a bright career path and in astrology. So I have all of you all to thank for this. And again, I'm going to continue taking all the classes that are offered, the pocket classes and the other specialty classes. And maybe I'll go, I don't know if I can, but I would always love to go back and have a refresher in either the natal studies or the diploma course. So
You're always
thank you.
welcome.
Yes.